new opportunity to study your word.
Wir kommen vor dir jetzt, um dir zu danken für diese neue Gelegenheit, deines Wortes zu studieren.
Thank you also, Father, for your help, for your blessing during the day.
Danke, Vater, für deine Hilfe und für deine Segnungen während dieses Tages.
And I want to ask you, God, now that you would please come among us.
Und ich möchte bitten, dass du jetzt mitten unter uns kommst.
Teach us, Father, through your Holy Spirit, the truth.
Bitte lehre uns durch den Heiligen Geist die Wahrheit.
Keep Satan away
Bitte halte den Satan fern
and help us to concentrate, to focus our minds on the topic.
und helf uns aufmerksam zu sein, dass unsere Gedanken stets auf diese Themen gerichtet bleiben.
And I want also, Father, that you will please help our guests to arrive safely home.
Und ich möchte auch bitten, lieber Vater, dass du hilfst, dass unsere Gäste sicher nach Hause ankommen.
Help them also to try to remind themselves all that they have already heard here.
Und bitte hilf sie auch, Herr, alles, was sie hier aufgenommen haben, zu bewahren in ihrem Gedanken, in ihr Herz.
To meditate upon
Und dass sie danach sinnen werden.
and to make the right decisions.
Und dass sie die richtigen Entscheidungen treffen werden.
Now please bless Brother Marcus as he's being called the class.
Und bitte segne jetzt Bruder Mark, als er die Klasse hier anleitet.
In Jesus' name, amen.
In Jesu Namen. Amen.
Okay, go to Daniel chapter 1.
So gehen wir zu Daniel Kapitel 1.
Now, I think over the last few weeks, the Lord has given us a lot of real solid evidence for this time period.
Und ich denke, über die letzten paar Wochen hat der Herr uns einiges an felsenfesten Beweise für diese Zeitperiode gegeben.
And earlier on today, I was going through these things, and I just reminded myself how powerful this message is that we have.
Und heute früher habe ich durch diese Sachen hindurchgegangen in meine Gedanken und mir ist schon bewusst, wie powerful diese Botschaft eigentlich ist.
Okay, so we can basically, with the structure that we have, we can go anywhere in the Bible and take it and fit it in there, right?
Also mit dieser Struktur, die wir jetzt haben, wir können sonst wo in der Bibel hingehen und wir können es hier reinfügen.
Okay, so anyway, let's go down chapter 1 and let's begin.
Aber jetzt in Daniel Kapitel 1.
It says, in the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasured house of his God. Right?
Verse 1 und 2.
And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favoured and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding, science, and as such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Right?
Vers 4.
So, the first point that I want to remind us about is this third year of Jehoiakim. Where is it?
So dieser erste Punkt, die ich in unsere Erinnerung bringen möchte, ist dieses dritte Jahr von Jehoiakim.
Where is it and why?
Wo ist das und warum ist es da?
And I mean on a line.
Und natürlich auf unserer Linie, meine ich.
Sunday law because it's the beginning of the 70 years captivity, which is the 12th.
Okay, that's one argument.
Also ein Argument ist, dass es das Sonntagsgesetz ist, weil da ist der Anfang von der 70 Jahre Gefangenschaft, wo hier Nebukadnezar ihn gefangen genommen hat. Und das ist aber auch gleichzeitig der 1260.
Oh, he didn't say that.
He did say that.
You said parallel to the 1260?
Yes.
You did?
He said
Okay.
there's 70 years and it's the 1260.
Okay, excuse me, I missed that. Sorry, Fyodor?
Jerusalem is besieged. It's the siege or surrounding of Jerusalem.
Also Jerusalem wird belagert, das ist der Belagerung Jerusalems, also auch am Sonntagsgesetz.
Okay, let's put these things on here, right?
Also lasst uns das hier auf den Tafeln markieren.
The 70 is a parallel to the 1260.
Die 70, das ist ein Parallel zu der 1260.
Right? Everybody understand that point?
Jeder versteht diesen Punkt.
Right? So, and as Führer said, right, Jerusalem is besieged.
Und wie Fyodor schon bereits gesagt hat, Jerusalem wird belagert.
But as another point there,
Aber es gibt ein weiteres Punkt hier.
what's the third year of Jehoiakim a parallel to?
Was ist der dritte Jahr Jehoiakim ein Parallel zu? Also I would take a sanctified guess. Cyrus,
Yes.
the third year of Cyrus.
Yeah, yes, right?
Also der dritte Jahr von Kyros.
Okay, because we don't have a line with these on, but these three kings, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah, are the counterfeit of Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes.
Also diese drei Könige, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin und Zedekia, sind das Gegenteil, also eine Fälschung, Gegenteil von Kyros, Darius und Artaxerxes.
Why?
Warum?
In one sense.
In einem gewissen Maß.
What's the difference between Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes and Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah?
Was ist der Unterschied zwischen Kyros, Darius und Artaxerxes und Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin und Zedekia?
So it's destruction of Jerusalem and others the rebuilding.
Okay, so one is the restorer, one is the destroyer,
Also
right?
der eine ist ein Wiederhersteller und der andere ein Zerstörer.
Okay, so you have, let's just do this really. Right, so you have Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah. Right? And then you have Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes. Right? So these three kings here, who are they a representative of?
So diese drei Könige hier, wem stellen sie dar?
They're representative of Christ,
Sie
right?
sind eine Darstellung von Christus.
Because they are the ones that's restoring the temple,
Denn
right?
die sind diejenigen, die das Tempel wiederherstellen.
But each one of these kings did what?
Aber jeder von diesen drei Könige haben was getan.
Missing something. What did they do?
So was haben sie getan?
An oath.
They took an oath.
Die haben ein Eid genommen.
When they took an oath with whom?
Und die haben ein Eid mit wem?
The king of the north.
Der
Right.
König des
Which
Nordens.
was, in this sense, he's typifying Christ, right?
Und in diesem Sinne, das schattet Christus voraus.
Because they took an oath with Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Weil sie einen Eid mit Nebukadnezar genommen haben.
Each one of them took an oath with him, and each one of them broke that oath.
So, die haben jeweilige einen Eid mit Nebukadnezar gemacht und jeder von denen hat auch diesen Eid gebrochen.
Right?
Amen.
So they represent the destroyer,
Also die stellen der Zerstörer dar
or Satan, right?
oder Satan.
So Christ is the restorer,
Christus ist der Wiederhersteller.
and Satan is the destroyer. right?
Satan ist der Zerstörer.
Okay, so, but the point we can see is that we know that it's marking there's these two 70-year prophecies, right?
Aber es gibt diese zwei 70-jährige Prophezeiungen.
And the second 70-year prophecy comes to the first year of Cyrus.
Und der zweite 70-jährige Prophezeiung kommt zum ersten Jahr von Kyros an.
And basically, this if I remember rightly. Yes, this marks the beginning of this 70-year captivity, and this marks the end, right?
Und das hier markiert das Anfang von 70-jähriger Gefangenschaft und das hier markiert das Ende der 70-jährigen Gefangenschaft.
Right, but the first year of Jehoiakim,
Aber das erste Jahr von Joachim,
he marks the beginning of the other 70-year prophecy, and Cyrus coming in 530 marks the end of it.
das
Right?
erste Jahr von Joachim markiert das erste Jahr von dieser anderen 70-jährigen Periode. Und Kyros, als er ein General unter Darius gekommen ist, markiert auch das erste Jahr von den ersten 70
So it's
Jahren.
like a parallel, it's like the true and the counterfeit side by side, right?
Es ist wie das wahre und das falsche Seite bei Seite.
Okay, so when we go back to the book of Daniel chapter 1,
Also wenn wir zurück zu Daniel 1 kommen,
so in the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, Judah came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to Jerusalem and besieged it. It's marking this point, which we know is marking right here. Right?
das ist Vers 1 und das markiert diesen Punkt hier und wir wissen, dass das auch hier am Sonntagsgesetz ist.
Two more points,
2 weitere Punkte.
because it also says 3 years before they stand before the king.
Es steht auch da 3 Jahre noch, bevor sie vor dem König
We'll
steht.
come to that.
Also dazu werden wir gleich kommen.
We only got to verse 4, right?
Also wir sind nur bis Vers 4 angekommen.
So in verses 3 and 4,
Die Verse 3 und 4,
it says that that Ashpenaz was to take certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed, right?
so Aspanas soll Kinder Israels nehmen und einige von der königlichen Samen.
So when it uses that language, what does it bring into mind?
Und wenn es diese Sprache, Gebrauch von dieser Sprache benutzt, was bringt das zu unseren Gedanken? Those are under the promise.
Yes, because this is all about the promised seed, right?
Also diejenigen, die unter der Verheißung sind, denn das ist die verheißene Samen.
And verse 4, right?
Vers 4.
Children in whom was no blemish, but well flavored and skillful. Immediately, what does that do for us?
Also sofort, was sagt uns das? You've got the Hochzeit, the wedding garment on.
Okay, why?
Well, there's no blemish, no spot of blemish.
Right. So who's this a parallel to?
So, wem ist das mit wem ist das ein Parallel?
To Job, right?
Hiob.
They're righteous, right?
Also die sind gerecht.
So you can see right away that when you now understand this first and second birth, you know that at that point they come in there, it's marking they have this first birth, right?
So, wenn wir verstehen, dass über den erste und zweite Geburt, wir können sehen, gerade hier im Vers 4, dass das markiert, wo sie reinkommen, diese erste Geburt.
So they're without blemish,
Die sind ohne Makel.
would mark this birth, right?
Und das, wenn sie ohne Makel sind, markiert das Geburt hier.
Okay. So now, just to show some other points, go to Ezekiel chapter 17.
So, gehen wir zu Ezekiel Kapitel 17.
Coming back to them.
Yes, we will come back. Please. It says, And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, put forth a riddle, and speak a parable unto the house of Israel, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, A great eagle, with great wings, long-winged, full of feathers, which had diverse colours, came unto Lebanon, and took the highest branch of the cedar. And he cropped off the top of his young twigs, and carried it into a land of traffic. He set it in a city of merchants. He took also of the seed of the land, and planted it in a fruitful field. He placed it by great waters, and set it in a willow tree. And it grew and became a spreading vine of low stature, whose branches turned toward him, and the roots thereof were under him. So it became a vine, and brought forth branches, and shot forth sprigs. Thoughts?
Bis Vers 1 bis 6 haben wir gelesen. Also, Gedanken dazu.
Come on, David. What's your thoughts? got to let the Lord, you got to hear the Lord speaking to you, right? He wants to unfold this to us. So,
A riddle is the word.
you know what a riddle is?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. It's not a riddle, I mean, because it explains itself.
It's Daniel chapter 1, verse 1 to
3 and 4.
3. Or
And 3 and 4, right?
Also es ist Daniel Kapitel 1, Verse 3 und 4.
Right, okay, explain yourself, Judah.
Also erkläre das.
I mean, the eagle, if you read through it, it's Babylon.
Also
Okay, no, go to the verse, right?
Der Adler, wenn man da durchliest, das ist Babylon.
Verse 12, I think.
Vers
Yes.
12.
Do you want to read it?
Say now to the rebellious house, know ye not what these things mean? Tell them, behold, the king of Babylon is come to Jerusalem, and hath taken the king thereof, and the princes thereof, and led them with him to Babylon.
Right?
Yeah, the eagle is Babylon, and he
Der
takes
Adler ist Babylon
the princes and the king into Babylon.
und nimmt der König und die Prinzen bis Babylon hin.
So does it say that in Daniel chapter 1,
So sagt sie das in Daniel Kapitel 1,
verse 2?
Vers 2,
Yeah, it says the king's siege and the princes.
No, verse 2.
Vers 2.
Oh.
It says, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar. Right, it says it right there, right?
No, verse 3 it says
You must go back to Ezekiel 17, right?
Also Hesekiel 17,
Verse 12.
Vers 12.
Say now to the rebellious house, know ye not what these things mean? Tell them, behold, the king of Babylon is come to Jerusalem, and hath taken who? The king.
Yeah, Vers 3 says the princes.
the princes. Yeah.
Listen,
But it says,
no, wait a minute. You're both away on a different planet, right? Stay with me, right?
Okay.
yeah,
And have taken it says, has taken the king thereof and the princes thereof, and led them with him to Babylon,
yeah,
right?
verse 2 is speaking
Okay.
about the king that was taken.
No, I get that. I'm
Yeah.
not arguing that point. We already talked about the seed in that, but I'm just saying, look, when you go to verse 2, it proves it's the same thing, because in verse 2 it says, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God. So you
I don't know, what I mean is verse 12 in Ezekiel 17, talking about the king and the princess. And in Daniel chapter 1, verse 2, it's speaking about the king. But if you go to verse
Yes.
3, it's speaking about the princess. So
Yes.
verse 2 and 3 is fulfilling verse 12 in Ezekiel chapter.
Yes, no, I got no problem with that, but I remember when we were studying this some time back, right, there was a bit of an argument over verse 2 about whether the king was actually taken, right?
Also es gab, als wir das vor einigen Zeiten studiert haben, es gab eine Auseinandersetzung, ob in Vers 2 der König tatsächlich an dieser Stelle genommen worden ist nach
You've
Babylon.
got to pay attention to detail, right? The point is that the thing is, Jehoiakim was taken to Babylon, and then he was released again.
Also Jehoiakim, der würde schon nach Babylon geführt, aber der würde wieder entlassen.
Okay, because he ruled in Jerusalem for how many years?
Weil hat in Jerusalem für wie viele Jahre
11 years, right?
11 Jahre.
And this was in his third year that this happened.
Und das war hier in sein drittes Jahr, wo
So it
dies
tells
geschehen
us
ist.
in his first year, he takes an oath, right? But in this third year, this is where he comes up because he's broken the oath, and
Also-
Nebuchadnezzar takes him to Babylon.
Im ersten Jahr hat er einen Eid mit Babylon gemacht und hier in Daniel Kapitel 1, in der dritte Jahr, Nebukadnezar kommt gegen ihn, weil er diesen Eid schon gebrochen hat und nimmt ihn gefangen nach Babylon.
So he gets let go again, and but come to the 11th year.
Aber er würde dann daraufhin danach wieder losgelassen und er regiert insgesamt 11 Jahre. in
Okay.
Jerusalem.
Okay, you finished your point? Okay. So you can see that Daniel 1 and Ezekiel 17 is the same story, right?
Daniel 1 und Hesekiel 17 spricht über dasselbe Geschichte.
And in Daniel 1 and verse 4, Scott made the point, the children have no blemish, right?
Daniel 1, Vers 4, der Punkt wurde gemacht, dass die Kinder sind ohne Makel.
Right? Now,
It's the vine that flourished.
one second, right? So, we know that this right here is the beginning, right?
Also wir wissen, dass das Sonntagsgesetz bezeichnet wird als der Anfang.
Who was, okay, I'll ask this question in a second, right? So, back to Ezekiel 17.
Zurück zu Hesekiel 17,
Verse 5.
Vers 5.
And he took also, okay, in fact, before I even ask this question.
So, bevor ich diese Frage sogar stelle.
So, Fyodor made the point, right? It's the king of Babylon that took them, right?
So, Fyodor hat diesen Punkt gemacht, es ist der König Babylons, der sie genommen hat.
Right? So, when you come down to verse 5, it's he is the king of Babylon, right?
So, wenn wir hier Vers 5 ankommen, diese er, der damit anfängt, das spricht über der König Babylons.
I'm not misrepresenting that, right?
Das ist keine Verdrehung der Schriften, oder?
Verse 5.
Vers
Because
5.
it's the same he is that's in verse 4, right?
Es ist derselbe er, der im Vers 4 ist.
And it's talking about the eagle, right?
Und es spricht über der Adler.
Okay, right? So, is Christ likened unto an eagle?
Wird Christus wie ein Adler bezeichnet?
Yes, where did we read that this morning?
Ja, wo haben wir das heute Morgen gelesen? Psalm 91. No, Psalm 91.
Psalm
you're right.
91, right? Just go back to Psalm 91.
Also zum Psalm 91, da gehen wir hin.
Well, it doesn't actually mention it's an eagle here, but in verse 4,
Also es spricht nicht direkt in der Adler, aber in Vers 4,
he shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust, right? But I know somewhere that it says that he's an eagle.
Matthew 24. Is it not Matthew 24?
No, it's in, is it not in Revelation? It's in Revelation.
Es ist in Offenbarung.
So just keep your place in Ezekiel 17, Daniel 1, go to Revelation 12.
So haltet den Platz in Ezekiel 17 und Daniel 1 und wir gehen jetzt zum Offenbarung 12.
Because these little points help us to understand things, right?
Denn diese Punkte, die helfen uns,
Yes, verse 14.
die Sachen besser zu verstehen. So Vers 14.
It says, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into a place where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time. Right? Right?
Amen.
So whose are these eagle wings?
So wessen Flügel sind das?
Adlerflügel.
Sorry?
Wer ist ein Adlerflügel?
Wessen Adlerflügel sind das?
Christ, right? He's protecting
Christus.
them over that time, right?
Wer beschützt sie diese Zeit?
Okay, so go back to Ezekiel 17.
Zurück zu Hesekiel 17.
So this eagle, right, the king of Babylon,
Dieser Adler, der König Babylons,
he took also of the seed of the land and planted it in a fruitful field. He placed it by great waters and set it as a willow tree, and it grew, and it became a spreading vine of low stature, whose branches turned towards him, and the roots thereof were under him. So it became a vine and brought forth branches and shot forth sprigs. So what condition is now this vine?
ready to bring forth fruit.
Right, it's so when this vine grows in the ground, it gets to this point and it grows out its branches and it shoots forth these sprigs. The next thing that's going to come is fruit, right?
Also die Frage wurde gestellt, in welchem Zustand befindet sich diese Rebe, und die Antwort war, es steht kurz bevor Frucht zu tragen. Und natürlich, wenn man durchliest, ist es in der Zustand, dass das Allernächste, was passieren wird, ist, dass Frucht hervorkommen wird.
Okay, so go to Mark chapter 12.
So gehen wir jetzt zu Markus 12.
Exodus 19 verse 14 says, God's
Just read it, Daniel.
Zweite Buch Mose 19, which verse?
14.
Vers 14 sagt, dass der Herr ein Adler ist. Also 4, nicht 14.
Just read it for us, please.
You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings.
Okay, yes. Okay, so the bearing you on eagle's wings is the protection, right?
Also dieses Tragen auf Adlerflügel, das ist Gottes Schutz.
And the glorious land is the land that God gave for his people, right?
Und das herrliche Land ist das Land, die Gott für sein Volk gab.
So the lion at the top there, what's it got on it?
So, der Löwe hier oben auf der Karte, was hat der an sich?
Eagle's wings, right?
Adlerflügel.
So when he stands up and the eagle wings are plucked, what's it marking?
Also wenn er steht auf und diese Adlerflügel von ihm gepflückt wird, was stellt das dar?
No more protection. Why not?
Keine Schutz mehr, because he's lifted himself up.
Because he's lifted himself up and he's removed the constitution, right?
Er hat sich selbst erhoben, da steht nichts mehr unter Gottes Schutz, weil er die Verfassung beseitigt hat. Thank you.
Tells us that's what the strength of the nation is, right? The separation of church and state. This is what makes it a great nation.
Klärt uns, das, was den Nationen groß macht, ist die Verfassung.
Right. So,
Also die Trennung von Kirche und Staat. Danke.
okay, so just to remind us now, right? So, the king of Babylon crops off the top of the sprig and takes the seed to Babylon and he plants them in a good fertile place with waters, right?
So der König Babylon, dieser Adler hier, der nimmt diese obrige Teil von diesen Baum mit und er nimmt ins Babylon und er pflanzte es neben einen Fluss in ein gutes Land.
And the roots go towards him and the branches start to bring forth sprigs, right?
Und die Wurzeln wachsen zu ihm hin und diese Äste, die fängen an, diese Sprossen hervorzubringen.
Okay, Mark 12 and verse 1.
Markus 12 und Vers 1.
It says, and he began to speak unto them by parables. A certain man planted a vineyard and set a hedge about it, and digged a place for the wine fat, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country. And at this season he sent to the husbandman a servant, that he might receive from the husbandman of the fruit of the vineyard. Okay, so when did he send somebody to it?
So, wann hat er jemand da hingesandt?
They're right at the point where it should bring forth fruit.
So, gerade zu der Punkt, wo es Frucht hervorbringen soll.
Right? So we know on our prophetic narrative, right here is where the seed is planted, right?
Und wir wissen in die prophetische Erzählung, dass gerade hier ist, wo der Same gesät wird.
So the seed that's taken into Babylon is marking, because it's the seed that gets planted, the prig that says this, the twig of the top of the branches, right?
Also der Same, der hier gepflanzt wird, das ist dasselbe wie diese obrige Teil von diesem Baum, der von der Adler genommen wird.
Right, so we know that the seed gets planted here, this sprig or this top of this branches is being planted in these waters right here. Right?
Also der Same, der hier in die Erde fällt, ist genau dasselbe wie dieser obrige Teil, der Baum, der hier in den guten Land neben den Gewässern hier gepflanzt wird in Ezekiel.
And it tells us in the parable of the sower, while they all slumbered and slept, right, the tares were sown, right?
Das Gleichnis von Seemann, es erklärt uns, dass während sie alle geschlummert und geschlafen haben, dass das Unkraut im Feld gesät wurde.
Okay, so the seed that's been planted there is planted by Christ, right?
Der Same, der da gepflanzt worden ist, würde durch Christus
And
gepflanzt.
right here in verse 1,
Gerade hier in Vers 1, Markus
says,
12,
a certain man planted a vineyard.
so ein gewisses Mann hat einen Weinberg gepflanzt.
So who's this eagle that's been typified by the king of Babylon?
So wer ist dieser Adler, der vorausgeschattet wird durch der König Babylons? Das certain man, Christ.
It's Christ, right?
A certain man is also the
Yeah, well,
Okay.
that's another thought, right? It's just Christ.
okay, it's Christus.
Sorry?
Certain man is the Father, isn't this parable? Because he sends his son with him. The heir.
Yes,
Yes.
but okay, but we know that I and my Father are one, right? Is this?
Oh, well,
Yes.
no, I agree with that.
Okay.
It's just to clarify.
Yes, but but it doesn't deny Ezekiel 17.
No.
No, right, okay. Because they're both doing the same work, right? So, okay, so the certain man planted a vineyard and set a hedge about it, digged a place for the wine fat and built a tower and let it out to husbandmen and went into a far country. So, who would be the husbandman then?
So wer wäre denn diese Weingärtner?
You mean now in our time? Or?
Well, that's where we're putting it. Where's he putting where's the husbandman? Right there when he plants it, right?
Also wo ist der Weingärtner? Gerade da, wo er es pflanzt.
Because right at the beginning, as soon as you've planted something, you need somebody to take care of it, right?
So, wenn du irgendetwas pflanzt, da brauchst du jemanden, der da Sorge für trägt.
You said, ask who's the husbandman?
Yeah, I asked, who is it? Yes?
Who is the one who's taking care of the vineyard?
Deswegen.
Husbandman is not one person. I'm asking, who does the husbandman represent?
Wer stellt diese Weingärtner dar? Das ist natürlich nicht unbedingt eine Person.
It's the 12.
It would be the 12 disciples. I think they represent the whole movement, but this would represent people that are appointed to look over the flock, right?
Also das würde darstellen, diejenigen, die bestimmt sind, die Herde zu weiden.
Right?
Amen?
So you clearly got these leaders here that are looking after the plant, which is his flock,
Also
right?
es gibt diese Leitern hier, die sind bestimmt, das Pflanze sich um den Pflanze zu kümmern, was auch gleich ist, die Hirten, die um den Herde kümmern sollen.
So it says, and at the season he sent to the husbandman a servant that he might receive from the husband and the fruit of the vineyard.
Vers
Where would that be?
Wo würde das sein?
Right here, because this is where he's expecting to find fruit.
Also
right?
im Mitternachtsruf, weil gerade da erwartet er Frucht zu finden.
Okay? So, and we know that he doesn't find any, right?
Und wir wissen, dass er keine findet.
Okay, go back to Ezekiel 17,
So gehen wir zurück zu Hesekiel 17,
verse 7.
Vers 7.
It says, there was also another great eagle with great wings and many feathers, and behold, this vine did bend her roots towards him, and shot forth her branches towards him, that he might water it by the furrows of her plantation. So, who's this speaking about now?
Vers 7, über wem spricht das hier?
Who's this other eagle?
Wer ist dieser andere Adler?
Verse 15,
Vers 15.
same chapter. Right? But he rebelled. Sorry?
I said Egypt.
Oh, sorry. It says, but he rebelled against him, sending his ambassadors into Egypt that they might give him horses and much people. Shall he prosper? Shall he escape that doeth such things? Or shall he break the covenant and be delivered? Okay, it's not so much who it's about. It's about who does Egypt's been likened unto an eagle here, right?
Also Ägypten wird wie ein Adler hier.
So you've got two eagles, right?
Also es gibt zwei Adler.
Okay, now we already got this illustration on the board, right?
Also wir haben schon bereits diese Darstellung hier auf der Tafel.
So the king of Babylon, right, would be this eagle, right?
Also der König von Babylon wird dieses Adler sein.
And this other eagle is the king of Egypt.
Und dieser andere Adler ist der König von Ägypten.
So in Ezekiel 29 and verse 3, who does it say the king of Pharaoh is, right?
In Hesekiel 29, Vers 3, wer sagt es, wer der König von Ägypten ist? Es ist Pharao, richtig?
is the dragon, right?
Also der König von Ägypten, der
Which
Pharao,
is
ist der
Satan,
Drache,
right?
was Satan ist.
So you've got this true work and this counterfeit work,
Das ist
right?
diese wahre Werk und diese falsche Werk.
So
Deuteronomy 29.
So 5. Buch Mose 29.
Eagle that is sent to destroy
it was Rome, right?
Jerusalem was Rome.
Yes.
Der Adler, der gesandt worden ist, um Jerusalem zu zerstören, war Rom.
It's also Babylon,
Ist aber auch Babylon.
because depends on which context you're looking at. Babylon, it either represents Christ or it represents this same symbol as Rome, right?
So, je nach Kontext, Babylon ist entweder eine Darstellung von Christus oder eine Darstellung der Zerstörer, also so dasselbe wie Rom. Sorry?
The dragon also.
Ist auch der Drache.
Yes, it depends on which
Yeah.
book you're reading it, right?
Es kommt darauf an, in welchem Kontext, in welchem Buch, in welche Anwendung man das liest.
So you can see this true work and this counterfeit work,
Wir
right?
können diese wahre Werk und diese falsche Werk sehen.
So in verse 8,
Vers 8.
it says, "It was planted in a good soil by great waters, that it might bring forth branches, that it might bear fruit, that it might be a goodly vine. Say thou, thus saith the Lord God, shall it prosper? Shall he not pull up the roots thereof, and cut off the fruit thereof, that it wither? It shall wither in all the leaves of her spring, even without great power, or many people to pluck it up by the roots thereof. Yea, behold, being planted, shall it prosper? Shall it not utterly wither? When the east wind toucheth it, it shall wither in the furrows where it grew." So who's going to cause it to wither?
So, wer wird dafür verursachen, dass es sich austrocknet oder schrumpft?
The east wind,
Das Ostwind
right? And
verdorrt.
if you go to Mark chapter 4 and verse 6,
Und Markus Kapitel 4 und Vers 6.
you're all familiar with this verse, right?
Wir sind alle vertraut mit diesen Versen.
And let's begin reading in verse 3.
Und wir fangen an in Vers 3.
Same story.
Derselbe Geschichte.
Behold, hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it what? Withered away, right? Same story, right?
Es ist verdorrt. Selbe Geschichte.
And if you just go to chapter 11 and verse 21.
Und Markus 11, Vers 21.
It says, "And Peter, calling to remembrance, saith unto him, Master, behold, the fig tree which thou cursedst is withered away." So the fig tree withered, right?
So, der Feigenbaum ist auch verdorrt.
But what does the fig tree also do at this waymark?
Aber was tut den Feigenbaum auch gerade an diese Wegmarke?
There.
Yes.
There's no well.
No, that's this illustration. But I said, what does it also do?
Was tut es auch?
That's what.
Oh, no, you're thinking, okay. It
21.
no, I was thinking of Revelation 6. It casts its untimely figs.
Also ich
right?
habe an Offenbarung 6 gedacht, es wirft seine unreife Früchten.
It's the falling away,
Es
right?
ist das Wegfallen.
Because what happened here
Denn was geschah hier vorne?
in history? The falling of the stars, right?
Das Sternenfall.
Right. So it's the cat, and it's the falling. It says the falling of the stars is like the fig tree casting our untimely
Es
figs.
sagt,
right?
dass diese Fallen der Sterne ist wie diese Feigenbaum, die stößt oder wirft ihre unreife Früchte ab.
Okay, so you see very clearly when you Christ always takes the stories, the parables, and that's always taken from the Old Testament. Right?
Und Christus, all diese Geschichten und Gleichnisse kommen alle von das Alte Testament her.
Okay. Okay, so go back to Daniel.
Zurück zu Daniel, Kapitel 1.
Okay, now Lawrence, you can make your point, because in fact you want to read to the point, the verse, and then make your point. Verse 5.
And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. That's basically
Vers 5.
3 years from temple cleansing to temple cleansing.
Okay,
So 3 Jahre von Tempelreinigung bis zur Tempelreinigung.
So it's marking the first birth to the second
Das
birth,
markiert das erste Geburt bis zur Ende da der zweite Geburt.
and it's 3 years, right?
Und das wird als 3 Jahre bezeichnet.
So from temple cleansing to temple cleansing, you have this 3-year period, right?
So von Tempelreinigung bis zur Tempelreinigung hin, man hat diese 3 Jahre Periode.
I mean, the 9th hour for us, right?
Yes.
Das werde für uns der 9. Stunde sein. Sorry?
Yes. Sorry.
I said in this case would be the 9th hour.
Yeah, but that's not. We're just dealing with the whole.
Also in diesem Fall perfekt werde schon der 9. Stunde sein, aber wir befassen das ganze Fraktal.
Because it's talking about everybody here. This is the point where everybody is now manifest and filled with the Holy Spirit.
Spricht über alle hier und hier am Ende da sind alle manifestieren, dass sie voll der Heiligen Geist sind.
Okay.
Amen.
Is that your point? Okay. So, so it says that at the end thereof they might stand before the king, right?
Vers 5. Am Ende, dass sie vor der König stehen.
So right at we have the beginning and we have the end.
So hier ist bezeichnet als das Anfang, Geburt, und hier das Ende.
And Christ said in Matthew 24, all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet, right?
Christus sagt seine Jünger in Matthäus 24, all diese Dinge müssen geschehen, aber das Ende ist noch nicht da.
Okay, so the end marks the second coming when Christ comes with all his angels.
So das Ende markiert das zweite Kommen Christi, wenn er kommt mit all seinen Engeln.
Okay, so it says, now among these were children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But, okay, so a point. What is it teaching us about the fact that when they're here, they have these different names?
So was lehrt uns das, wenn sie gerade hier sind, dass sie diese verschiedenen oder anderen Namen bekommen?
Okay, what do names represent in the Bible?
Wofür stehen Namen in der
Jesus
Bibel?
also was given
Character.
other names, and he calls them his disciples.
Okay, but what's your point, Margaret?
The name change is marking something.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Yes, that's true. But what's it marking? Not always, but it's to do with your character, right?
Also es ist in Bezug auf Charakter.
Okay, but it's true that at certain, depending on context, a name change means that you're entering into covenant with the Lord, right?
Aber das ist auch wahr, dass in gewissen, also basierend auf Kontext, eine Namensänderung kann heißen, dass du im Bündnis mit dem Herrn hineingehst.
Okay, but
Since maybe can represent taking our claims then as his leading them into captivity.
Okay.
When he's given them pagan names. Also Bruder Lorenz sagt, dass es kann heißen, dass Satan beansprucht sie hier in dem, dass er sie heidnischen Namen gibt, weil er führt sie hier gerade ins Gefangenschaft hinein.
Because he says right in Job that all the world is mine, and basically also claims Job as his.
Weil
Right,
Hiob, er sagt, die ganze Welt ist meins, und er beansprucht Hiob als sein Unterworfener.
And they're also in bondage, which is covenant.
Okay,
Die
okay,
sind noch in
that's
Knechtschaft, was das alte Bund.
where I would be more inclined to go. Right?
Gerade da wäre ich geneigt zu denken.
Although, right, you have this first birth here, right? You're under the new covenant by faith, even though you're still in the old covenant, right?
Obwohl man hier das erste Geburt hat und deswegen bist du durch Glaube in das Bündnis der Verheißung hineingetreten.
Right. So, I would be more inclined to that, but I also thought maybe it's Satan throwing dirty garments on you, right? Trying to make you
Also ich würde auch
to show you yours, because what he's doing here is the very same thing that he does here, right?
so, ich würde auch dazu geneigt zu denken, dass das hier in der alte Bund, also der Knechtschaft hinein. Aber vielleicht ist es nur Satan, der seine schmutzigen Gewänder über dich hier wirft, denn das, was er hier rein tut, tut er auch hierin.
What did we read this morning about Christians? When you have this, when you live a godly life in Christ Jesus, what do you suffer?
Also was haben wir heute Morgen gelesen über Christen? Wenn du ein gottesfürchtiges Leben in Christus Jesus lebst, was kannst du erwarten?
Persecution. Right?
Verfolgung.
And we read in this quote, how often does a Christian get persecuted?
Und wir haben in diesen Zitaten gelesen, wie oft wird ein Christ verfolgt? Always.
Apart from the
Continuously.
little time of peace, right?
Continuously.
Mhm.
Also ausgenommen der kleinen Zeit des Friedens, also beständig.
So, it's not just a test here, it's a test all the way through,
Es
right?
ist nicht nur ein Test hier, es ist ein Test der gesamten Weg hindurch.
Okay, so
Amen.
I'm also open to that the fact is it's Satan tempting them, throwing all these Babylonian garments upon them, reminding them of their past because they represent God's people in the world.
Also ich bin nicht abtrünnig zu der Idee, dass Satan hier sie beschmutzt mit diesen dreckigen Gewänder, da er sie beständig erinnert an die Sünden ihrer Vergangenheit.
Okay, so verse 8.
Vers 8 jetzt.
But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So, what's the test right here?
Also was ist der Test gerade hier? Eating and drinking.
Okay, but in what sense?
Also Essen und Trinken, aber in welchen Sinne?
Yes, you can parallel with the manna test, right?
Das mit der Manna-Test.
And Christ says, I am that bread that came down from heaven, right?
Christus sagte, ich bin diesen Brot, der vom Himmel herabgekommen
He
ist.
says, eat my flesh and drink my blood or you have no life in you,
Esst
right?
mein Fleisch und trinkt mein Blut, ansonsten habt ihr kein Leben in euch.
Okay, so it's on about the either the Babylonian message that you're going to eat or the true message that you're going to eat, right?
Es spielt sich entweder isst du diese babylonischen Botschaft oder der wahre Botschaft.
Okay. So,
And she says also, right, as this quote here,
Also Ellen White hatte auch ein Zitat,
in DK
Propheten und Könige,
481.2, it says,
481.2 im Englischen.
at the very outset of their career, they came to them a decisive test of character.
So am Anfang von ihrer Karriere sind sie zu einem entscheidenden Prüfung ihres Charakters an,
okay.
Just something.
was gerade hier am Anfang wäre.
Okay, so in verse 8 it says, But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine that he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. What is Daniel and his three friends, what are they?
So Daniel und seine 3 Freunden, was sind sie?
Yeah, it says so in the verse, right there.
Sagt es gerade hier in diesem Vers.
They're eunuchs, right?
Eunuchen? Eunuchen.
Because it tells us elsewhere in the Bible that they were taken to Babylon and made eunuchs.
Es
Right?
sagt uns
I think
anderswo
it's
in der
in
Bibel,
Jeremiah.
dass sie nach Babylon genommen worden sind und die sind zu Eunuchen gemacht.
Because it's the prince of the eunuchs that's looking after them.
Es
Right?
ist der Prinz der Eunuchen, der sich um sie kümmert.
And what is a eunuch?
Und was ist ein Eunuch?
What does it represent?
Und was stellt es dar?
Barren woman.
It's like a project.
Yes, there was 3 types of eunuchs,
Es
right?
gab 3 verschiedene Sorten von Eunuchen.
Okay, so there's some that have been born eunuchs,
Yes.
some that were made eunuchs by men.
Willingly.
Okay.
Also es gab Eunuchen, die von Geburt an Eunuchen waren, einige, die Eunuchen gemacht worden sind durch Männer und anderen,
Like all.
Like Paul, he made himself a eunuch.
also so wie Paulus, freiwillig bekam ein Eunuch.
Now,
Spiritually speaking.
Geistlich
yes, spiritual
gesprochen.
speaking, right?
Thank you.
Yes, he did not, anyway, we don't need to go there, but he didn't do anything to himself, right? But the point is right here that these men were made eunuchs by the Babylonians, right?
Also der Punkt hier ist, gerade diese Eunuchen im Vers 8 würden Eunuchen gemacht durch die Babylonier.
But it tells you right there, but Daniel purposed in his heart. So what's it, what's it teaching us about him as a eunuch?
So was lehrt uns das über Daniel, wenn es sagt, dass Daniel bestimmte im Herzen?
They became spiritual eunuchs for Christ, right?
Die sind geistliche Eunuchen für Christus geworden.
And that's what it's teaching us,
Das
right?
lehrt uns. Das ist das, was es uns lehrt.
To become a eunuch for Christ is to give your whole heart to him so that you no longer desire the things of the world, right?
So, ein Eunuch für Christus zu sein, heißt, dass du ihm dein ganzen Herz gegeben hast, dass du keine Verlangen oder Lust nach die Dinge der Welt mehr hast.
Okay. What time are we on? Okay, we're nearly done. So this is all revision, but I just wanted to put a few things in place.
Also das ist alles Wiederholung, was wir hier machen, aber ich wollte nur einige Sachen einfach im Platz stellen.
Yes. Okay, so. Okay, verse 12.
Vers 12.
Because it says, "Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink." So, in our current understanding, where would we put these 10 days?
So in unserem jetzigen Verständnis, wo werden wir diesen 10 Tagen markieren? 10 days to repent. Well, it would be here, right? Sunday Lord to the midnight cry.
Because it said, was at the very outset of this testing.
Yes, yes.
Also es sagt gerade, dass es gerade am Anfang war, wo diese
But that's
Tests
the
zu ihnen
beginning of
gekommen
it,
ist,
right?
was der Anfang von den Tests. So Sunday Lord and Midnight Cry.
Okay, so, sorry?
No.
It says, verse 14,
Vers 14 sagt
"So he
es.
consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat." What's it marking? What's it showing us right there?
Revelation account. Also
Right.
was zeigt es uns gerade hier in Vers 15?
So where would we put it and why?
Wo werden wir das markieren und warum?
If you don't know the answer, don't say, right? But if you do know the
Antwort,
answer,
nichts weißt, sag nichts.
give a good reason why you're saying so. Come on, remember that very often we study these things.
Esther, right?
Sorry?
Esther is also fairer than all the virgins.
Okay, right. That's a good point. So where would you put that? Where did we put Esther when she was fairer than all the virgins at the
So,
beginning?
wo haben wir Esther markiert, als sie schöner als all die Jungfrauen waren am
She
Anfang?
came in crying.
Yes, right at the
Sie
midnight.
kam rein am Mitternachtsruf.
So we know that at the beginning, right here, we put the 3 years goes from the beginning to the end,
Also
right?
wir wissen, die 3 Jahre hier, wir markieren sie vom Anfang bis zur Ende.
Because it's at the end of the 3 years that he stands before the king,
Denn es ist
right?
am Ende dieser 3 Jahre, dass er vor der König steht.
But within that 3 years, there's a separate test, and it's marked by this 10 days,
Und
right?
innerhalb von diesen 3 Jahren, es gibt eine andere Test und das wird hier durch diese 10 Tage markiert.
Okay, so we know that this fractal is a parallel to this,
So
right?
wir wissen, dass diese Fraktal hier ist auch ausgedehnt gleich mit dieser Fraktal.
So what's at the beginning here?
So, was ist gerade hier am Anfang?
Not a difficult question.
Birth.
A birth, right?
Das ist ein Geburt.
Just look at what we're talking about, right?
Okay.
Right? So what condition are they in when they stand before Melzer?
So, in welchem Zustand befinden sie sich, wenn sie vor Melzer, diese Eunuch, hier stehen? Without blemish.
Yeah, so it's right there, this first birth,
Das
right?
ist gerade hier, diese erste Geburt.
Right. So this 10 days would represent this time, right?
So, diese 10 Tage wird diese Zeit hier darstellen.
Okay, so
Would that be the same as in Revelation 3? I think I gave her 10 days, laid Jezebel in her bed, but she didn't repent. No?
Different thing.
Different 10 days.
That's the 10 days in the upper room when you're being persecuted. It
Oh,
says,
okay.
because it says, unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life.
Of course. Okay. Also nein, diese 10 Tage in Offenbarung 3 wäre denn hier in der Obergemach und da steht es geschrieben, dass es bis zum Tod muss sie aushalten.
The 10 days would be this test here. The 10 days in Revelation.
Yes, but I mean, Daniel.
Right here, from the beginning to this birth.
Also die 10 Tage hier in Daniel wird hier von Anfang bis zu diesen Geburt hin.
Because right at the beginning, they was a test, right? Then right here, right?
Gerade am Anfang war es ein Test, also da begann ihr Test.
And that brings them to this test now.
Und es bringt sie zu diesem Test hin.
And this test is the one that prepares them to stand before the king, which in this case would be here, but just for the whole fractal, it's here, right?
Und dieser Test hier ist der Test, der sie vorbereitet, um vor der König zu stehen. In diesem Sinne, das wäre hier, aber für das gesamte Fraktal, das wäre hier am Ende sein.
Because it's dealing with all God's people.
Das behandelt alle von Gottes Volk.
I mean, I looked again at Esther.
Also ich habe Esther ein weiteres Mal angeschaut.
I mean, she gets called right at Minakai.
Sie wird gerufen am Mitternachtsruf.
There she says she was fair and beautiful.
Und gerade da steht, dass sie schön und wunderschön war.
But then she has this 6 months purification, right?
Yeah,
but
but
I-
there's
this
these
is
two things here, right?
Diese 6 Monate und diese weitere 6 Monate, diese 2 Reinigungsprozesse, die sie hindurchgeht.
Yeah, she stands before the king and gets married.
Und dann am Ende steht sie vor der König und wird
But that,
verheiratet.
if we just take the whole group, we could put that there like that. It's the same principle.
Also es wäre dasselbe mit 6 und 6 hier für den gesamten Gruppe.
Kuro?
It says that they were fatter in the flesh, right?
Yes.
Steht hier, dass sie im Fleisch fetter waren.
And in Matthew 22, when the second call goes forth, which is how it says is after the cross,
Und Matthäus 22, wenn der zweite
Fatlings.
Ausruf geht fort, was Ellen White sagt, nach das Kreuz ist,
the fatlings are killed.
The fatlings are ready, right?
die Fettlinge
killed.
sind bereit.
They're ready. Okay, yeah, they're killed. They're gone to the cross, right?
Also sie sind zum Kreuz gegangen.
Yeah, going to the cross.
Yes, right. So the fat are in the flesh there. That would be these fatlings that are right there, getting put on the cross there, right?
The what in the flesh? Sorry?
Fatlings.
Now, what did you say? The what? I got fatlings, but you said something about in
The
flesh.
fatter in the flesh.
Ah, dieses in Daniel, dass die Fetter im Fleisch waren, das sind diese Fettlinge hier, ich finde gemästete.
Gemästete.
Gemästete ist in Deutsch, diese Fettlinge.
Right.
Gemästete.
Okay. So thus Melzer took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink and gave them pulse.
Vers 16.
What's that marking?
Was markiert das?
They have a pure message. They don't eat any.
Yes, but it's also
Also die haben eine reine Botschaft jetzt.
he taketh away the old
Nimmt das Alte weg,
and he institutes the new, right?
und führt das Neue hinein.
Right?
Amen.
Very, very nice, these little points when you get them in place, right?
Sehr schön, diese Punkte,
And he also, in
wie
a
sie
sense,
sehen.
marks the end of the first test because he removes this temptation from them. And now they have like this
Ah, ja.
ready access to the pure message.
Also es markiert das Ende vom ersten Test, denn diese Versuchung, also der Königsfleisch, Königsspeise, würde jetzt von ihm entnommen.
Because look what they're given in verse 17.
In Vers 17, schau mal, was ihnen gegeben wird.
As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Right? Okay, so right here, when you have this birth here, right, because it's marking this wonderful, glorious message is getting opened up to you in this time, right?
Also gerade hier, wenn du diesen ersten Geburt hast, diese wunderbare, glorreiche Botschaft wird dir hier geoffenbart in dieser Zeit.
John 16.
Das ist Johannes 16.
Says, when the Spirit comes, He will lead you into all the truth.
Da steht geschrieben, wenn der Geist der Weisheit gekommen ist, er wird dich in alle Wahrheit führen.
Yes, that's very true. So, verse 18.
Vers 18.
It says, Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the first year of King Cyrus.
Vers 21.
So it's marking this point, he found them 10 times better, and it says that the latter rain comes with 10 times the power.
Also es markiert der Punkt hier, wo sie 10-mal besser befunden worden sind, und das ist gleich, wenn der Spätregen kommt, mit 10-mal der Kraft.
Okay, so we know for them in their test, it's right here.
Also wir wissen für sie in ihrem Test, das wäre gerade hier am 9.
That's
Stunde
where they
sein,
stand before the king.
wo sie vor der König stehen.
But in the big fractal, it's marking this
Aber in
point.
diesem Gesamtfraktal ist markiert hier am Ende.
Amen.
Amen.
So it's nice when we have this structure now. We should go back and check former stories and make sure, because it shows us new things as we go forward, right?
Und wenn Sachen wie das hier geoffenbart werden, ist es schön, wenn wir alte Geschichten nochmal rübergehen und schauen in Bezug auf das Licht, die wir hier haben, denn meistens offenbart es uns neue Sachen.
Okay.
Amen.
Shall we,